When you have relatively large worksheets to contend with, where you want to be able to view different parts of them, you find yourself, looking at something like this where we've got our headings at the top. We know what each of these pieces of information are. So as we scroll down using our wheel, we can go further and further down. And it might end up being, information, and you forget what it was. In other words, it's pretty easy to kind of remember that this was probably the company name, and this was the, or parent company, and this was the company name and all that. But you kind of lose track of what some of this information was, all right, because you lost your headings. In other words, your headings were on row 1 there, so as you scroll down, you lost that. Or worse yet, you scroll over to the right, you say, oh yeah, there's the number, and you go, oh wait a minute, I forgot what row that was for that person. So then you end up having to kind of scroll back to see what that company was, all right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to lock in certain rows, certain columns, and so forth. And that way, especially let's say if we lock in row 1, as you scroll down, you won't lose this. This will stay on there just as does A, B, and C do. All right? So let's start with that first, okay? So let's say that you want to make it so where as you scroll down, the columns stay locked into place. All right? So what do we do? Well, you could be anywhere in the worksheet, doesn't matter. We go back into View, we go to Freeze Panes, and we tell it to freeze the top row. So there it is. So now we've frozen the top row. Now as we scroll down, see how it stays locked in there. So row 1 is in there, just like A, B, and C are, but everything else goes and flies right past it. That's pretty good. Now you're sitting there saying, well, I'd like to maybe also, maybe lock in column A, all right? That way when I'm scrolling over, I'll at least know, who it is, whose information I'm looking at, right? So if you do it right now, see, you're kind of losing it. So you say, okay, I guess I'll go back in there, click on to, this is in the View tab, go to Freeze Panes, and I'll go over here and I'll hit Freeze First Column. Great. So now that I scroll over, it stays locked into place, so I can be way over here and know, by customer ID who that is, or who it is, but what the information belongs to. Now, the problem with that is that if you now locked in the column, look what happens with the row. The row becomes unlocked. So now we've got a problem because one overrides the other. So what do? Well, let's first of all go back in there and we'll hit Freeze Panes and we'll hit Unfreeze Panes, and that will turn everything off. So now we're back to square one. So really what we want to do here is we want to lock in column A and row 1, both, okay? Freeze them, as they call it, right? So you have to kind of visualize the whole process. What you really want to kind of do here is you want to lock in column or row 1 here, right? As well as column A. And I'm just using I'm just clicking this and then holding on my control key and clicking onto A and doing that. So that's really what you want to lock in, right? So what happens? Well, or what do we have to do to make this happen, I should say? Well, you need to position your pointer on a cell that's just below what you want to lock and just to the right of what you want to lock, all right? So if you want to lock in column A, we need to be somewhere in column B. And if you want to lock in row 1, then we have to be on row 2. So what that ends up being visually here is B what? B2. So that's where you want to position your pointer to lock it in. So I highlight it like this so that you can get, the graphic of this, right? But after a while, you're just going to be able to say to yourself, oh yeah, okay, so I need to be here, all right? So you click onto that. You go back into back to your view, go back to your freeze panes, right? and we're going to tell it that we want to freeze panes. Not the top row, not the first column, but freeze panes. We do that, now we've locked in both. So if I scroll down, it's locked in. If I scroll to the right, it's locked in. How about that, huh? So I could be there and way down here somewhere, and I can look at this piece of information and know that it's that particular customer, and it's the total, right? So pretty good. Now to turn that off, all we do is we go back into freeze panes and hit unfreeze, and we're back to square one. Now that freezing does not affect your printing. So however you've got it set, you go to print it, it's going to print out just the way it's always printed. All right? So we're going to do a little bit of review here. This is like a little quiz I'm going to give you, okay? Where are you going to have to position your pointer if you want to lock in columns A, B, and C as well as row 1? Where do you need to position the pointer in order to make that happen? Okay? Now, if you can visualize what I had highlighted earlier, all right, that'll help. If not, say to yourself, well, I'm locking in A, B, and C, so I need to be in D. I'm locking in row 1, that means I need to be on row 2. That ends up being D2. How about that? Otherwise, you can, in your mind, click that, and then hold down your control key and select that and say to yourself, okay, that's where I need to be. So we click onto that, go back to freeze panes, hit freeze panes, and now we've got that locked in. So now if we scroll to the right, there we go. Scroll down, there we go. So we know whatever information we're looking at, we definitely know who it belongs to now, right? All right. And then to go back and turn that off, we can just go back into freeze panes, hit unfreeze, and we're back to square one. Okay, I hope you liked the video. Take care.